Hello folks, welcome back to the Rupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. So today again we will be continuing with the winding up of the companies, right, and referring to the provisions of the Companies Act 1956. Okay, so in the previous lectures we have already started a topic that we did not complete. What was it? Yes, we were discussing about the order of payment of liabilities. To be very specific, we were discussing about the two specific sections, that was section 529A and section 530. Section 529A that dealt with the overriding preferential payment, which had two elements, the workmen and the secured creditors, and section 530 was the preferential payment, having the 7 different elements over there, right? So we have discussed in detail what is the overriding preferential payment, what is preferential payment, and all those stuff, right? But is that the only order of payment of the liability? No, because there are other liabilities as well. We have just seen those 7 elements, those 8 elements, I guess, yeah. 7 elements in the preferential payment and 2 elements over there, so 9 elements altogether. But there are still other elements, right? Now some of you must be thinking, what are they? So basically understand that you also have the cost for winding up. You have the unsecured creditors. Even the unsecured are divided into two. Some of them having floating charges and the others are simply unsecured. That means some are having floating charges, they are secured by floating charges, but they are not completely secured by a charge on a particular asset. So they are creditors secured by floating charges. So these are the topics that we'll be discussing today. So let us wind up the entire topic with the reference to the question that we'll be discussing and also the calculation part, which is very important for you, because that is the most important thing in the entire section. If you have been asked 10 questions in the past, then 9 of them have been depending on the same calculation, right? Yes, I'll show it to you. So let's move ahead. So first we had the section 529A overriding preferential payment. We talked about all of these. Then we had section 530, the preferential payment. We had all these elements involved over there. Now, the order of payment of liability on totality. What do you have? First is the overriding preferential payment, because we know section 529A says that nothing will come in between. When the liquidation is under process, when the liquidator has already taken charge and the process or the procedures of winding up has started, post that whatever money comes into the company by sale of any asset, maybe that was initially already initiated, the asset was sold and the payment was supposed to be received. Even that payment, if it is received, may be for any cause, you will have to give it to the overriding preferential payment people, right? Then once you have settled them, once the overriding preferential payment has been settled, that means all the workmen have been paid their dues, all the secured creditors have been paid their dues. Now if you have surplus after selling your assets, you will first of all adjust the cost and expenses of the winding up, right? Now what are the cost and expenses of winding up? Everything that the liquidator is incurring in order to transact the procedure of winding up. But you do not make any payment to the liquidator, not even the fees to the liquidator. You pay or you make the payment to the central government, and the central government pays the liquidator its desired fees, right? And there are other costs also which has to be incurred, which will be reimbursed, right? Or if the cost is to be incurred, they have to be incurred out of the funds of the company itself. The liquidator will not employ his own money, right? It's not none of his business. So all those costs and expenses of winding up will take the second position, right? Then after that, after those costs have been settled, after the winding up procedures, all the costs, all the expenses that is going behind for sale of assets or for discharge of the liabilities for any purpose, the statutory, legal purposes, whatever it is, you will have to settle those payments, and then you move on to the preferential payment. And when we talk about preferential payment, you have these 7 elements, out of which 4 were very common, relating to your employees, that is their wages, their salary, their holiday remuneration, the employees contribution, the employees compensation, and the funds that are due to them, right? These are common with the workmen section 529A. And apart from that, you have one more contribution towards the employee, that is the employer's contribution. Apart from these 5 that are related to the employees of the company, we have the revenue, taxes, cess and rates that has to be paid to the government. May it be central government, may it be state government, may it be any other local authority. Right? We are least interested. Whatever it is, if it is due to the government, give it to them. And then if there is any investigation that has been conducted, then those investigation expenses. That means, what do you see over here? That the expenses of winding up takes the first priority, and then the investigation expenses, they follow. Now, what are these investigations that we are talking about? Basically, over here the investigations deal with the investigations under section 235 and section 237. So what are the investigations under section 235? It is the investigation made by the central government, right? So even the central government has authority to investigate into the matters or into the affairs of the company, basically when asked by the registrar of the company. And 237 is when the central government, again, they make an investigation into the affairs of the company without prejudice to section 235, where the application is made either by the passing the special resolution by the shareholders or by the order of the court. Right? So those kind of things. You don't have to remember 235 and 237 of 1956 Act, because not all the acts of 1956 is applicable for your exam. It's only about winding up. Right? So forget about that. What you only need to understand is that investigation which is ordered by the central government on request of either the registrar or the special resolution of the company or the court's order, anything. Those investigation expenses that has to be paid to the central government, for that central government will stand in the preferential payment line. Right? But the expenses of winding up that is being borne by the liquidator over here, that will have a priority over all the preferential payment. Right? Then, after that, we talk about those creditors who were not secured above. That means who were not secured by a charge towards any asset, but they were secured by a floating charge. Right? So those creditors who were secured by the floating charge, they will also have a call on the surplus that the company has after paying away the overriding preferential payment, cost and the preferential payment. Clear with that? I don't think it is required over here to discuss about what floating charge is. All of you know about floating charge. In short, if I let you know, then the floating charge are the charge of the creditor on a particular asset, right? But these charges are conditional. On the occurrence of certain event, those charge will be created. So they are floating. That as on date, there are no charge which has been created. There is no actual charge on any asset, but that asset could have been charged by that creditor if certain conditions would have occurred. Basically, that is about floating charge, right? So those creditors, they could have had the charge, but they do not have the charge today, so they will not be given a part of the shares, a part of the consideration when they sell the asset. Right? Yeah, but if there is surplus after the sale of the asset, okay, you will get it. Although you did not have the charge on the asset, but still you were a creditor, you are a liability for the company, please keep some money. Right? And after that, because since these people, they at least had some charge which did not materialize. And then there are other unsecured creditors who did not have any charge at all. They were at the mercy of the company, at the mercy of the situation. So let them be at the mercy. If after paying off all of the above liabilities, if there is something remaining, then you will distribute it to the unsecured creditors. Right? And when you talk about the unsecured creditors, you will again give away to all of them in proportion of their share. So you club all of them, total shareholding, divide each by total shareholding, you get the percentage, and then that percentage of the surplus will be given to them. Right? Now if I give you an example for that, then suppose we'll not take a long example, suppose there were 3 creditors, right? One had 30% share, other had 35% share, which added to 65, and other again had 35% share. So over here, they had, suppose number one, he wanted to gain whatever is the amount, the percentage. When we divide their amount by the total of the unsecured creditors, then their percentage is 35 in the total share. So if you have 1 lakh rupee surplus with you, you pay 35,000 to that, 35,000 to the other, and 30,000 to the other, irrespective of whatever was the amount due to them. Right? You will play in percentages. But be rest assured, you will not get a question on paying off the unsecured creditors, because that is a very rare situation that you get such a lengthy question in the examination. Why? Because if you are ever asked to pay off the unsecured creditor, you will be given the details of the workmen, you will be given the details of the employees, the government taxes, the cost, right? The creditors with floating charge, they may not be there, but then unsecured. So there are a lot of calculations that has to be done prior to this, right? But you are never getting a 16-mark question in the examination. So be sure you are not getting such questions in the examination, because that will take a lot of time, right? But again, there can be 1% probability. Institute can give you anything. There is no disclaimer over there, right? So basically, whenever you get a question, that question hits to the first part only and it's over. You believe me or you don't? I'll prove it to you. Wait. For that, we'll move on to the question answer section, right? Before moving to the question answer section, should I discuss the calculation that we were discussing about with an illustration of how to calculate the percentage in that pari passu share of the employee of the secured creditor and the workman, step by step? Or let's do one thing. A better and the prudent thing would be that if we cover the same calculation via a question that has been asked in your examination, right? So let us look at a question. So this is a question in front of you. Read. Don't worry, it looks lengthy, but it is not, right? So, Mars India Limited, a company incorporated under the Companies Act 1956, is being wound up by the court. Okay, all these situations, they arise in the case of winding up itself, right? So, after realization of the assets of the company, the official liquidator has an amount of 70 lakhs at his disposal. Oh my god, he has a huge amount, right? Towards payment of the creditor of the said company. The details of the creditors are as follows. Unsecured creditor, last people, 50 lakhs. Taxes and duties payable to government, they are into the preferential payment. So the third priority. Dues to workers, when they say worker means workmen, right? So the first priority. And dues to secured creditor, again the first priority. So they never talk about the expenses and the floating charge people, right? I haven't seen a question like that in the examination so far, where they talked about the expenses, or maybe they have talked about the expenses once, I guess, but they have never talked about the floating charges, right? Then the question moves ahead. The available amount with the liquidator obviously is not sufficient to meet the claims of all the creditors. Yes, why? Because over here, if you see, then you have a totality of 1 crore 25 lakh to be paid. And how much surplus, how much money do you have? Only 70 lakhs. That means 55 lakh worth people will not be paid anything. Okay, let's see further. The available amount with the liquidator obviously is not, we have seen that. Moreover, the company had already created a charge on all the assets of the company in favor of the secured creditor. That means all the assets were charged to the secured creditors. Okay. Explain the procedure to be followed by the liquidator for payment of dues as provided in the Companies Act 1956. So this is a question that had been asked in your CA final examination November 2008. Right? And if you refer to your practice manual, the latest practice manual that we have available so far, this is question number 20 in your practice manual. Exactly the same name, Mars India Limited, exactly the same figures. Right? Okay. So over here, what do you feel? First, you will give your money to the overriding preferential payment. Who are they? The dues to the workers and the dues to the secured creditors. How much are they valued? They are valued at rupees 40 lakhs and 30 lakhs, which sums up to be 70 lakhs. Exactly the amount that the liquidator has arranged or could arrange, right? So he has 70 lakhs fund in his hand and he has 70 lakhs to pay to the overriding preferential payment. He will pay to them in full. So they will be settled in full and there will be nothing left for the payment of the government taxes or the unsecured creditors. It is as simple an answer as that. You cannot have a simpler question. Anybody who has just read through section 529A and section 530 can easily answer this question and secure all the marks. So this is the level of question you are being asked. We are scared of the questions in the examination, but think this question could have been highly complicated if the institute wanted. Right? They would have inserted so much of the preferential payment units over there, confused you somewhere. Some of the people, some of the expenses or some of the receipt to the employees which were not included would have been included over here. Something they would have come out with anything. Yeah, come on, that is the institute. They can come up with anything. So they could have come up with that, creating a floating charge over there and everything, and then a complicated sum where you would have to pay this, and then again later the liquidator, again the company dissolved, again the liquidator thinks, okay, no, we have some more money coming in, then who will be getting and what all things, right? So the question could have been complicated, right? If you think, then the questions that you get in your examinations are very simple. When I say very simple, doesn't mean that you get an easy paper. No, I'm not talking about getting an easy paper, but I'm talking about getting simple questions. The questions can be 10x tougher than what they are. It's a straightforward question that you are being asked. Even in the case of the case studies, you are asked simple questions. It can be highly complicated. If they ask you real-time scenarios, it can be highly complicated. Yeah, the choice of question from what part of the syllabus they're asking, that is a little different task. Most of the people, you try to miss out, or you leave those things, or the difficult things. I agree to that, right? But they do not complicate the question to the level that they can. This question was very simple. I think I should discuss one more question with you. So the next question is here on the screen for you. Messrs XYZ Limited is being wound up by the court. Okay. The official liquidator, after realization of the asset of the company, has an amount of rupees 56 lakhs at his disposal towards the payment of the creditor of the said company. The details of the creditors are as follows. Unsecured creditors have 80 lakhs, taxes 4 lakhs, dues to worker again 30 lakhs, and dues to secured creditors again 40 lakhs. The available amount is not sufficient to meet the claims of all the creditors. Explain the procedure to be followed by the liquidator for the payment of dues as provided in the Companies Act 1956. Assuming the company has created a charge on all the assets of the company in favor of the secured creditor. 99.99% of the sum is same. Change in the name of the company and change in the values, nothing else. But that change in the value will actually force you to change your answer. Is it? How? Yes, it is. What can you see in the question over here? If you look at this, where the pointer is pointing, the dues of the worker and the dues of secured creditor, how much is it? 40 plus 30, 70. And how much is the money available with the liquidator? Only 56 lakhs, right? Will the liquidator be able to pay off all the overriding preferential share people? Overriding preferential payment people? No. Even section 529A is not fully complied. So what is the end line that 521A says? What does it say? So 529A says that the debt shall be paid in full unless the assets are sufficient to meet them. Insufficient to meet them. Right? And what will happen if the assets are insufficient to meet them? Then they shall abate in equal proportion. Yes, this is the catch. This is what I wanted to discuss with you. How do you calculate it? What is the pari pursu charge over here? What is the proportion that we're talking about? Right? I will not show you any calculation on the screen. Just listen to it. It is a very simple concept. Right? If you look at your books or the institute, they give you a complicated formula, this plus this into this, whatever. Avoid everything. Just understand. Understand in plain English. What is the total amount of due that you have to pay as per section 529A? 70 lakhs. How much do you have in your hand? 56 lakhs. So you can deal with this calculation in two different ways, right? So for that, let me show you a calculator on the screen. This is it, right? So what you have is 56 lakh rupees available with you, and how much do you need to pay? 70 lakhs. So what is the percentage of amount that you have? That is 56 lakhs divided by 70 lakhs is equal to 8 into 100 equals to 80%, right? So how much is the due that you have to pay to the creditors? It is 40 lakhs, right? So what you do is that you go back over here and calculate 80% of 40 lakh. 40 lakhs into 80%, 32 lakhs, right? So 32 lakhs is what you will pay to the creditors, and what you have for the dues to worker, 30 lakhs. So go back over here, it will be 30 lakhs into 80%. Oops, sorry, what have I done? It is 30, wait, I have to clear the entire thing. Yes, 30 lakh into 80%. It is 24 lakhs. So this is how you pay, right? If you refer to the solutions given in your practice manual and stuff, what procedure they follow is that they calculate the percentage of the workman due over the entire thing. So how much is the workman's due? That is 30 lakhs, right? So 30 lakhs divided by total is 70 lakhs, 30 plus 40, the combined due, right? So what is your percentage is 42.85 percentage is the due for the workman. So what they say is that you go back to 42.85 percentage of 30 lakhs. So into 42.85 percentage you have. So you had 56 lakhs in hand and you pay 42.85%. That is around 24 lakhs, right? So this is what they mean to say. This is the kind of calculation you have over there. But if you want to simplify, you're not being given the marks on the calculation, you are being awarded the marks in your theory paper on the basis of the answer that you write. That will be the most simple way. 56 lakhs divided by 70 lakhs equals to 80%, then 80% of workmen and 80% of creditors, 80% of anybody who is over there. You'll give it 80%, right? We come back to the question. So that is all about what you are supposed to give over here. Now if you want to know how do you write the answers, right? So if we go back, okay, the question that I showed you, this is also not a hypothetical example. This is a question from your examination as well as your practice manual. But this was asked to you long back in May 2003. So if we discuss about how to write the answer, okay, let me see. How do we write the answer for this question? So as I've always taught you, you know that we have to first start with the provisions. So you will talk about section 529A, right? What does it prescribe? You will have to write down everything. That, okay, 529A says that the workman's due and the secured creditors due, they will be overriding preferential payment. They will be applicable notwithstanding anything contained in section 530, and accordingly whatever money we have as consideration for the sale of the asset that we have made, that money will first be utilized towards the payment of the workers and the secured creditors, right? Then again you go on to write what is the order of the payment of liability. First is the overriding preferential payment, then is the cost and expense of winding up, then is the preferential payment under section 530, then is the creditors secured by floating charge, and then the unsecured creditor. You will number it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then again you go ahead. Since we have only 56 lakhs available with us, right, and we have to make payment of the total amount that you find out over here. How much is it? 30 plus 40 is 70, plus 80 is 1 crore 50 lakhs plus 4, 1 crore 54 lakhs. But you only have 74. So first you'll go on to pay the overriding preferential payment. They are 70 lakhs and you have only 56. So you will give them in proportion. Then you will show them the calculation and you will say that first we'll give out 24 lakhs to the workers and 32 lakhs to the secured creditors, and we are done. You write the entire thing that yes, they will abate in equal proportion and everything, whatever we have discussed. You write it over there and you will conclude that we will not be able to pay anything to the government and the unsecured creditor because there is nothing left for them. As simple as that. In your plain text, in your plain language. Just remember section 529A and section 530. That is it. Right? With this we have come to the end of this section, end of this discussion about the order of payment. But before leaving this class, I would like to show you something. How many times have these questions been asked in your examination? Tan-tana. CA Final May 1999, November 2002, May 2003, November 2005, May 2008, November 2008, November 2009, November 2010, November 2010 again, and November 2012. November 2010, two questions, two times, same questions. How? No, it is not the same question. One was again the same pattern of calculation. You have exactly the same. Every time you have to make the same calculation, only the figures they change every damn time. Go back, pick up a scanner, go through it. Go to the institute website, you have past year questions, browse through it, you'll get all the answers over there. Right? One among the questions of 2010 November final was to explain the meaning of the overriding preferential payment. So again related to the section 529A. 10 times in the previous examinations. Important chapter, important part. So if from this chapter this is the part that has been asked 10 times, then what is the other part that have been asked about? Not much. Yes, not much. Even if you look at your attempt this time in your May 2016, Your papers have been done. If you pick up the question paper of May 2016, you see over there you don't get this question, but again there for the first time, no, actually for the second time, again you have a question repeated. You had a question on the floating charge from this chapter, right? You know what floating charge? Sorry, the fraudulent preference. It is section 531. So that is something that we'll be taking up in the next class. But the question that you had in the examination in May 2016, just now that you had a paper, right? Even the results are not out. So for that, you had a repetition of CA final November 2013 question. Same, exactly the same question. Figures and the name changes. That is it. Right? So these kind of questions, they appear over and over again in your examination. So be sure that you cover all of these. I will be covering them in the class. So when you are attentive in the class and you're making note, you are complete. Right? At the end of the entire syllabus, we would again go on to solve the entire practice manual that you have. So anybody who is having difficulty in understanding your practice manual in any question, any part, all your queries will be solved, because we will discuss each and every question of the practice manual chapter wise. Right? So that will be all for the day today. This is Abhinay Gupta signing off. I'll see you guys in the next class. Until then, please stay tuned. Thank you and bye-bye.